So, Steve, how is it going with Eka? How is the acquisition manifesting itself, and how's it gone so far?
Yeah. So I'm kind of bound to say it's going well, but it genuinely is. Doesn't come without its trials and tribulations, but it has. It's gone really well so far. Very pleased. Just came off a call earlier. Very pleased with how things are coming together. But, a lot of activities have been put in place since April when we announced it. So I could take you through those if you like. That might.
Yeah.
So the first step was to pull together the two respective management teams into the same space and talk about, what we now had in terms of market presence, geographies, all of those things. We also had our investors there, STG.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're a private equity firm. They've got very specific ideas on how they want, forget what we're doing as a company, how they want the asset to go and grow and perform. And because all private equity firms are looking at entry and exit values. So that was really great. It was STG were incredibly clear about what they needed the combined entity to do. I think I've said to you before, I've certainly said to others, STG amongst private equity firms never have problem raising money. And the reason they don't is they measure all the usual things that a private equity firm would on one of its portfolio companies, but they tend to set the bar a bit higher than most, which one makes it challenging, but also very interesting. So those targets were kind of outlined from day one in terms of what we had to do. That's really helpful to any CEO. The way forward is crystal clear. The next thing we did was get the sales teams together. So we had a summit to talk about how we now go to market, and there were some changes in the way we do that. Maybe I'll come to that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really important, again, to get all those people from around the world who are in sales and marketing into one space. The other thing we did, which is critical, was amplify the importance of customer success. So both Eka and Quor had customer success schemes, but I would say that Eka's was stronger. And we spent a lot of time how we now amplify that. So we're actually recruiting into that space. Again, I had a call earlier today, which was exactly about our weekly progress on customer success, and I'm extremely pleased with the way that's gone. Beyond that, we've combined the product management teams, the development teams, the QA teams, professional services, finance, everybody really, and reorganized sales. So now we've split sales broadly into hunters and farmers, those that go out and catch new logos, new customers, and those that look after our existing ones in collaboration with our customer success team. So we've reorganized sales, we've reorganized marketing. We've got people now in India and in the UK that are part of the marketing team. Very pleased with the people that we acquired during that process. I think they're extremely capable. So that's now all reorganized and set up. Of course, as is true of any merger or any acquisition, you have to do some people rationalization. So we've just gone through a reduction in force focused on removing duplicate posts. We can't have two CEOs. So Manav has gone to what he's been wanting to do for a long time. He's gone into his own private equity world.
Right.
We don't need two CFOs. We don't need two CTOs, etc. And so that pattern runs down the organization. So as is natural, we have gone through a reduction in force. And we've also taken the opportunity to look at some areas that aren't really optimized. So it's an opportunity to optimize those. We're through all that now, thank goodness, because that's the really horrible part of mergers and acquisitions. Most of it is exciting, but not everybody can stay normally unless you're operating an umbrella company with, basically self-operating companies underneath, but we're merging these two into a single unit. So all of that horrible bit's gone now. People have stopped worrying about, am I in or am I out? Some people are obviously out, and we're helping them find new jobs very actively. And I can honestly say now we've got the makings of one team. You may have seen on some of our advertisement stuff, Quor Ecker joined as one. And that process has progressed much quicker than I'd hoped.
And have
The
you
level
settled on a
break-
brand name?
Sorry?
Have you settled on a combined name?
Right. Yes, we have, because again, we're on an acquisition trail. So if we combine this, how's it going to look?
Yeah, it'd be a long list.
So yeah, so we can't, the number of products in there and everything. So the approach we're taking is Echo will eventually disappear behind Quor. We don't want to spend time and money on that this minute, because we're focusing on our go-to-market, our customer success team, to make sure we're keeping the customers that we have happy and more happy than they were, and that we're constantly gaining new customers. So we've decided to defer that till the end of the year. So we won't even look at it till the end of the year, but that's what will happen. And in early 2025, we'll then do the proper rebranding. We have done it at a certain level. Every document now has got both logos on, but at some point, Eckers will kind of disappear behind Quor's, and we'll end up as a single brand. And that plays very well for those future acquisitions. So yeah.
So you talk about the customers. How have the customers reacted?
Yeah. So I and the team have been deliberately proactive on that. So obviously, we announced it to customers on the day it went public. We couldn't do it beforehand. A couple of weeks ago, completed a tour of USA, Canada, and Europe, seeing all the key customers, many others on Teams and Zoom and all the other media. And I'm actually in Australia right now because we're embarking on the same thing for Asia Pacific.
Right.
In those meetings, I have been entirely open about where we're up to and what we're doing, where the challenges lay, including all the things I've just told you.
Right.
But I was pleased to be able to tell them that we were at the end of the tough bit, the bit where people have to leave. And we're pretty confident that the people that, that whole process will not impact any specific clients. So we're very confident of that. And generally they've received the news extremely well. In that, get it, glad you told us. You're absolutely right. When you merge, because many of them have been through mergers before, there's always a rationalization of people. So it's been received very well. Of course, they naturally and quite rightly should. They're concerned about what does it mean to my product,
Right.
the people that look after me. And as I've said, there's no plan here to sunset any products. And we continue to invest in each. There's no real overlap between, fortunately, in this acquisition. So they seem to be quite happy with the answer.
And from a product perspective, how's that going? Because I talked to Harry a couple of weeks ago on this topic, so I've got some idea. But how's it going with regard to figuring out how to make all these products make sense to the marketplace, so to speak?
So that's still a work in progress, because we know discreetly where there might be tiny overlaps, and all that is very well understood. But I think, as I've said to you before, what we don't want to do is go to the market and go, hey, look, here's 15 products. What would you like?
Yeah.
What we want to do is go with what internally we call bundles. So we're selling Quor to a concentrates company. These are the potential products that we could put together to provide that solution. Similarly, if it's cotton, it's a different set. So we haven't. It's a work in progress right now. We haven't finished it, and that will actually go out as part of the branding. Quor for cotton, Quor for concentrates, Quor for precious metals, etc. And it's up to us to make sure we bundle it properly. And again, that brings a pricing challenge, because if you add up all the individual costs of all the prices of those products, they become prohibitively expensive. That's our problem, not the clients. Obviously, we're going to match it with market norms and make sure it is affordable and usable and apt to those markets.
And talking to Harry, he was saying that something like a project evolution, which we've talked about in the past, actually is being sort of sped up a little bit by some of the products that Eka already have.
It is. So if you take if you remember, project evolution was three things: UI, UX, APIs at the bottom, and in the middle, if there's any common services, we chuck them in a bucket that all the products can share. So if you take the UX, which is a great example, our time online on that was really quite long. But Eka's got a much more modern tech in that space. So what we're doing right now is a proof of concept to see how we could use that tech within the core product set and save some time, money, and give a common look and feel. So we've definitely we actually paused it the second the acquisition happened and said, let's rethink this, because we did know something or have an insight into what Eka had through our due diligence process when STG bought them. So that's kind of the situation there, but it continues at a pace, yeah.
And you've been through a few mergers and acquisitions already. So how does this one compare? What have you seen different, and what lessons from previous attempts have you been able to apply to this?
Yeah, I think I mentioned before, Eka in my whole history was the 25th. Now, a lot of those historically were we were selling the company, some of them we were buying them, and they were kind of long time ago. I have to say they were done extremely well, and I think that's where I learned my lesson. In later years, as you know, I was with Ion. I sold Aspect to Ion. Ion then bought OpenLink and Allegro. I don't know how to say this without being rude, but that taught me a lot about what not to do in terms of how you bring people together into a single team and a single focus. With this one, I've taken the lessons of all of that, plus one other massively valuable resource. That's STG's own experience. So 32 portfolio companies, but many of them are either amalgamations of other acquisitions, or they're making acquisitions all the time. So they have, number one, a great playbook on this. And number two, they have a team that we can borrow and use to help with those merger activities. And that's been the real ace in the hole over the last 2-3 months, in that you get that kind of extra expertise that if you wanted it, you go out and pay a fortune for.
Right.
And kind of get it as part of being in the club, if you will.
Yeah.
So that I think are the main things why I've made this one, in my view, the quickest and in many ways the easiest, because these things are always complex and riddled with minefields and pitfalls that you need to avoid. But I think I've got enough experience to avoid those, especially with STG's help.
And I suppose the last of the questions would be, now that you've sort of lifted the covers on what Eka have, where have you been pleasantly surprised in terms of product, shall we say?
Right. I could pick a few things, but I'm gonna pick one. And that one is warehousing and stockpiling.
I was hoping you was going to say that, because
Yeah, did you? Because I like you have been around for a long time, so you like to think, I've seen it all. That product has actually had it demonstrated, because I found the proposition interesting. So, well, let me see it in real life, and it's fascinating when you when we've explained that to the account managers at Quor, for example, they're immediately going, oh, I know 5 accounts that could be interested in that. When I went round North America and Europe, I too introduced that idea that that's one of the assets we brought, and there's tremendous interest in it, to the extent that we're about to strengthen the sales team in Asia Pac, not just to look after that, but that's one of the prime opportunities we've got. I think in Australia in particular, which is full of mines and stockpiles and warehouses, there's a huge untapped opportunity for that. And, that's part of the reason I'm here. In Australia, we work with a company called SG Controls.
Mhm.
And they're the guys that put the electronic control systems into mines and quarries and so on. And they work with us because this product is 3D. So there are cameras modeling it. It stops machinery bumping, the big arms, the elevator arms bumping into each other. It takes a bit of stock from this part of the stockpile, a bit from over here, to bring together to meet that contract that we've just signed. It's really clever. Anyway, I'm growing into an old techie. I don't normally get excited by tech, but that one
you
really.
See, the thing is I remember when Eka acquired that, and Patrick and I were like scratching our heads. What on earth have they acquired? And we did get a bit of a briefing back then, but to be honest, it kind of went quiet on that front. Eka tended to have sort of this, something was hot for a minute, and then sort of look at something else was hot. And to us, it was like, okay, so what happened to it? Because we thought it had tremendous potential. And when I think of something like Fintra, combined with that it surely is something that should be of significant interest to you as the acquirer and to the industry.
Exactly. So roll the clock forward. There's that huge untapped potential.
Yeah. Cool.
There's nothing a new business that's growing likes better than untapped potential. We haven't got to build a product. We haven't got to create a market. It's sitting there, and we just got to do better at getting our share. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, good. Well, so as you're managing this merger, what's it look like in terms of other acquisitions?
Right. Let me just say, because I only reviewed this last week with STG. Let me just say there are 2 or 3 candidates on the near-term map. So I'm still hopeful that we could announce something this side of the close of year.
All right.
It's going to be a tough one, but there's still time. We're in July. We could make an announcement before then. Forgive me if it slips into Q1.
Okay. So Steve, thank you very much for the update, and look forward to getting another one in 6 months or so.